Yeah, I kind of forgot how big this thing is. It barely fits in here. Alright, it has been a good long while since the last time I've worked on this mini trophy truck project. Now, the last time I had this thing off-roading was in Kentucky, and I accidentally hit a tree with the front tire and rolled this thing on its side.
Oh, look right.
Oh, that doesn't look right. Yeah, I hit the tree. If you haven't seen that video yet, definitely go check it out. Now, I bent and damaged the rear driver's side shock, and so it doesn't want to move anymore, but I bought the parts I need to hopefully fix it, so let's take it off and see if we can fix it. It barely moves. Yeah, Heim joints are awesome, but they can be really creaky sometimes and really loud. Yeah, no wonder the suspension barely moved. Look at this. Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty good bend right there. Don't drop that. Don't drop that. It's fine. Yeah. Alright, so I bought a new shock shaft, axle shaft, whatever you want to call it, and I bought a new one of these. I have no idea what it's called, but I think it's just called the bearing, bushing, housing, or something like that. So, luckily, they look like it's the same part. It looks like they'll fit. So if you've never replaced or rebuilt these kind of shocks before, it is not very self-explanatory with trying to figure out what parts and what part numbers you need to replace the parts you have. The company that I bought these things from, I called them and I basically just asked them, hey, I need help figuring out, I know the part number of the shocks I have, I don't know the part numbers for the shock shaft or this part, and they basically just told me like, oh, we don't know that. You have to figure it out for yourself. So it's like, okay, thanks, you're of no help, but at least I was able to figure it out, and it looks like it is the same parts. So, now, I did buy a new one of these because of how long I drove this thing after bending it, and I know that I cycled this over the bend a bunch of times. I thought that I may have possibly worn out the bushing or bearing that this, slides onto the shaft, but it actually feels fine. I don't feel any play. And it feels actually pretty fine. So I may have not needed to replace this, but probably good to do it anyways because this is where all the seals are. Now, all we have to do is take the parts off the old one, put it on the new one, and put it all back together. There it goes. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty bent. That's pretty bad. So before I took these shocks apart, I measured the pressure in these shocks, and it was 30 psi, which is way lower than what it should be. Their website says that it should be a minimum of 150. So I'm gonna check both of these and just make sure they're. I'm gonna set them at the minimum of 150. Let's actually go 175. Yeah, why was it 30? I don't know, but maybe it's because I never checked it before. Yeah, let me check the one on the other side. Nice. The rear suspension can finally move again. Now, last thing we need to fix on this before we can start working on the other things we need to do in this video is the steering. Now, something is binding up at the steering, making it kind of difficult to steer this thing. It could be the rack and pinion, it could be heim joint binding up, it could be something with the power steering. Something's going on with this, so we need to lift up the front end, let's take the weight off the front tires, and figure out what's going on, and hopefully we can fix it. Yeah, something's binding up. Definitely nowhere near as smooth as it was when I first assembled this thing. Now, something I just noticed is when the suspension is at full droop and the steering is almost at full lock, right there, the tie rod is hitting the top A-arm. So yeah, that's not good. How did I not notice that before? That is kind of something that is not good. That is not good at all. Also, I want to check the four-wheel drive. So let's lock this tire. And it is locked. Nice. And that one's now locked. There's still a decent amount of play between these, but it's through the locking mechanism. And now it's unlocked. Sweet. So that still works. That's good. Yeah, these heim joints are definitely really stiff. And that's one thing I thought of, is maybe these heim joints are binding up or like got dirt in them or something, and that's making it to where steering is difficult. Yeah, definitely not the easiest thing to turn, but not as bad as I was thinking it was gonna be, but something's probably not the best thing ever, but it's water-resistant silicone lubricant. So that's one downside with Heim joints. They're awesome, but when they get dirty and muddy, they get sticky and kind of bind up a little bit, and also really squeaky. Yeah, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. I'm almost wondering, because I don't see any damage, I don't really see anything on here. I wonder if it's just a combination of the Heim joints getting stiff and maybe the rack and pinion getting, because I'll admit some mud and water got in the rack and pinion. So I think it's just a combination of all that. So I think I just need to clean everything. Again, I know this is probably not the best thing to use because when you put something on this, then it attracts more dirt, but it just, yeah, it makes it, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. If you guys know of a better product to use, please let me know. Also, look at how rusty everything is. That's kind of what I know you guys keep saying, paint it, but it's like, yeah, I like to wait till I know everything is good, it doesn't need any modification, doesn't need any fixing, then I paint things. But yeah, just seeing everything rust like this, it's not great. Now, honestly, I was kind of hoping to find something binding up on the steering because then that would mean that something's binding up and that's a lot simpler of a fix than simply my power steering is not strong enough, because I was kind of fearing that. These are 32-inch tires and I do have a Prius power steering column, so I was kind of wondering, is that going to be strong enough? And from what I've noticed the last couple times riding this thing, is either something is binding up or the power steering is not strong enough. And I'm looking at everything seems fine, this is working fine. Aside from the Heim joints being a little bit sticky and a little bit stuck from just being dirty and rusty, honestly I don't see anything binding up or anything being wrong, except for those tie rods hitting the top A-arms, but that's only an issue when the suspension's all the way down, which is it's only ever down if I'm ever jumping the thing, and I'm never going to be jumping it with the tires fully locked, otherwise I'll roll the thing over. So I have been researching and looking up other power steering columns. I found a couple on eBay from Super ATV. One of them is $800 and 400, and I think it's 400 watts or 440 watts or something like that. Another one is over $1,000 and 600 watts, and I've been kind of trying to figure out which one do I need. Can I get away with the $800 one, or do I need the over $1,000 one? And I've been trying to figure out how many watts is the Prius power steering column. I've tried Googling it, can't find any information on those things, so I have no idea how many watts the power steering I have is on there. So I can't really compare that to, do I need the 600 watts or will the 400 watt work? But I think the 400 watts is gonna be strong enough. So I'm gonna buy that soon. It's over $800, but I think I need it for this thing because power steering is kind of really helpful. So for now, I'm just gonna clean everything. And something I noticed is, look at how rusty these are, and the grease is kind of really dirty. And we also noticed that last time I had this thing off-roading, we saw a bunch of muddy water getting squirted out of these anytime I would turn the wheels. So I think a bunch of water got in here somehow. So I'm gonna take this thing apart, heavily clean it, put some fresh grease on here, better clamp these boots because I left these open, so therefore they can slide back and forth on here because of how it's a little weird how it clamps on here, and it's, you know, because it really compresses it and then it really stretches it when I'm turning full lock to lock. So I kind of just left this off. So I kind of just left this unclamped, so therefore I can slide back and forth, but I think a bunch of water got in here, so I need to fix that. So I'm just gonna clean everything and clean the steering, clean the Heim joints, clean the rack and pinion, I'll order that much more powerful power steering and install it when it gets here. Now, another thing I wanted to do in this video was get rid of this third steering U-joint. The reason I had to put this here was originally, remember, I wanted to put the radiator in the front right here, so I had to put this here to get the steering shaft just a little bit lower to make room for the radiator, but we ended up putting the radiator in the back, and ever since we did that, I've been kind of wanting to get rid of this because it kind of just adds more complexity to the steering, adds more funny angles, and it makes it to where this steering U-joint for the rack and pinion kind of puts it at a funny angle. So I've been wanting to get rid of this, but if we are replacing the power steering column, we're probably gonna have to redo this anyways, so I may wait to get rid of this for when we replace the power steering column. So the steering does seem a little bit better. I don't know, maybe I just needed to clean it and lubricate everything, because now it doesn't seem as bad. Let me turn on the power steering. There it goes. This is with the power steering on. It's actually working pretty good. But we are on, you know, a hard surface. Aside from making a lot of creaking noises, it seems to be working a lot better. I don't know. Should I just stick with this power steering column, or should I spend the $800 to over $1,000 on the bigger one and upgrade the power steering? I don't know. Now, I've been wanting to add one of these for a while now. This is basically just a second throttle, so because this thing has a manual clutch, it kind of makes it a bit of a challenge. Anytime I have to stop on a hill because I'm having to hold the clutch in, hold the brakes in, but yet somehow hit the throttle so therefore I don't kill the engine as I slowly let the clutch out and slowly let the brakes out. So that can be a bit much, especially off-roading. So this just makes it to where I can rev the engine with my hand while I'm holding the clutch in, holding the brakes in. So I actually added one of these. It's a mini rock crawler project, and last time I had the thing at Windrock, it was actually really useful. So I've been wanting to add one to this, and now we finally have one. So. Alright, next thing let's work on is finally adding the doors on this thing. Now, the reason I haven't added these yet is because I need to figure out how to do the latching mechanism on how to latch them closed. I want to make it super easy and simple, not super complicated, but I want to make it to where it's easy to open from the inside and the outside, and I want to make it to where we can just close it and have it automatically latch. I don't want to have to pull the handle in to get the door to close all the way, so I have a couple ideas on how that's going to work. We just need to figure out the best way to make it work. I wonder how strong these doors are. Yeah, I think it'll hold my weight. Nice. Yeah, this should be a lot faster. Alright, hopefully I can get this thing out now. Yeah, I figured this would be the easiest way to build something like this, just using plate steel and square stock. Originally I was going to use round stock, but I decided against it. I think this is a little bit better, so... Now, before we weld this in the door, I do need to machine a slot in this and also drill and tap a hole in this. Therefore, we can put a little screw that will hold this in place, and that's also how we're going to be pulling this back to retract this. There is a decent amount of play in this, but I think that's good because we don't want it super tight, and I probably want to put a Zerk fitting in this because if this rusts, then it's just going to get stuck and not work anymore. So yeah, we probably need to put grease in this. Alright, so next thing is we need to figure out exactly where this is going, and we need to drill a square hole into this as well as this because that's what this is going to be latching onto, and then we can weld this in place. Also, check this out, it is working. It does retract on its own, so that's awesome. So I may just tack this in place and then drill the hole out. And I may just have to use files to do it because I don't really have any good way to drill a square hole. So. So it's kind of working, but the problem is right now, if we slam it too hard, it'll do that. So we need to figure out a way to keep the door from going too far in. Basically, I just need to weld some 1/8 of an inch plate right here, and I bought this stuff. This is basically just adhesive, soft, rubbery material. I'll put this in between those two plates of metal. That'll not only help keep this thing from rattling, hopefully keep it from rattling as we drive, but it's also going to make it a little bit quieter if we slam it. last thing we need to do before this is done, before the latching mechanism is done, not the doors, is the handle itself. Now that's why I welded this bolt right here. Telemarketer! Imagine that. Alright, last thing we need to do before the handle latching mechanism is, not the handle, Alright, last thing we need to do before the latching mechanism is done is the handle. Now that's why I welded this bolt right here. I also machined this little round thing that goes on here. This is the pivot point of the handle. All we need to do is just weld a piece of round stock to here with its bent slightly downwards. Weld another thing that goes down, connect this to here, and boom, that's the handle. I'm deciding to make it out of aluminum because it's better, it's lighter, and I want to make sure that the weight of the handle isn't going to be trying to pull this in or out at all. So, plus I think it'll look better. So once the handle is done, then the whole latching mechanism for the door is finished. Alright, so the door latching mechanisms are done. They work, they close, they don't rattle or anything, so that's awesome. Now, my original plan was going to be to leave an opening right here to where we can, from the outside you can see the handle, you can grab it from the outside, but looking at it, I'm realizing how, especially with them facing forwards, I may not want to leave them open because we definitely don't want our tree branch grabbing this and ripping it off, so I may just add a whole panel right here. So therefore you can only grab it from the inside to open and close it. But now, there are not that many things left to finish on this thing. We are getting pretty close to this thing being technically done and ready for painting. We still have all the paneling left, which I know you guys love watching paneling. It's the most entertaining thing ever. Yeah, there's 16 more panels I need to add to this thing, and each one take a very long time, so there's a lot of work I gotta do. Adding paneling, finishing the paneling on this thing, so as well as finalize the sway bar issue, and now that I've seen that the tie rods hit the top A-arms with them fully down and turned, that is something I definitely need to address and fix that, either rebuilding the top A arms or just making new ones or whatever. I think I may just try to modify them instead of rebuilding them. So, but yeah, the saying is slowly getting close to being finished. I'm trying to get this thing actually ready for a Windrock trip. In a couple months, I'm going to Windrock. I definitely want to see what this thing can do, and I definitely would like it if this thing's mostly finished, at least have all the paneling, finish the sway bar, fix some other things. I'm still not 100% sure if I should buy that stronger power steering column, or should I just stick with this one? I don't really know yet. But I guess that's it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.